Beginning about 5 years ago, I had this reoccurring dream that I had fish in a tank and I would forget to feed them. I'd wake up one day in my dream to discover, oh shit, several weeks have passed and I haven't fed these fish. Oh my God. And then I would feel overwhelmed by the responsibility of having these fish that I needed to feed. In some dreams, the fish would actually hop out of the tank too, and I would have to struggle to scoop them up and pick them up and get them back in the tank before they died. And I would tell my husband about these dreams. I would think about these dreams and I didn't know what they meant. Thoughts would go through my mind of okay, are these responsibilities that I feel overwhelmed by nurturing or something? Have I taken on too much? But that never felt right because sure, we all take on too much, but I knew that these fish had to represent something else, that they're everything I had taken on when these dreams began were things I consciously chose to take on and knew that I needed to. So what could it be? Well, about a year and a half ago, so a couple years into having these fish in the tank not being fed dreams, that lasted, I'd have them every couple months for about 4 or 5 years. Well, a year and a half ago from today, I had a dream that I was looking at a lake, a very calm, still lake, and it was at sunset. So the beauty of the sun's setting colors, the purples and the oranges were kind of intermingling across this calm water. And I saw something stirring in the water, rippling, as if an animal is under the surface. And I looked closer, trying to figure out what it was. And then it slowly rose out of the water into the air. And I saw that it was this big lavender colored fish. And when I say big, it was probably, a couple feet narrow, looked like an ocean type fish. And it was this lavender color. And I felt this flood of emotion, this overwhelming joy, but also an ache, like a longing. Like I knew this fish and it was precious. And I started calling it to me and moving my fingers, saying, come on, come on, come on. When you're really trying to coax something towards you, and it would slowly was swimming through the air toward me. Now I learned from paying attention to that dream that lavender symbolizes the divine feminine. And I had this dream a year and a half ago when I was a little deeper into my psychic studies and my intuitive and spiritual studies. And so I knew what that color meant. And the divine feminine, the lavender, started showing up in my stories too. So I knew a year and a half ago that I was calling my intuition back to me. I was calling my feminine divinity back to me. I learned that a year and a half ago. Now, just last night, I had a dream, my recurring dream, where I was stressed by teaching again. I was back in a classroom where I knew I didn't belong, stressing to figure out how to plan a lesson plan, but also really not wanting to plan that lesson and wanting to just get out, knowing I didn't belong there. And as I was stressed about teaching again, knowing I didn't belong there, but not knowing how to get out, I was led to a pond by an indigenous guide. And in this pond, he said there was a fish that I had been feeding and that I needed to take a look at this fish that I had been feeding in this pond. And as I looked at this fish, I saw it swim into this tube, into this sort of portal that I had put in the pond for it. It was like I had put this portal in the pond to nourish this fish, and I watched it swim into this tube. And as it swam into this tube, it was like I was being transported with the fish. And before I knew it, I was quote unquote alone, meaning the guide was gone in this other world with this fish that I had been feeding. And then I was standing on this raft in this other world. It was like I was transported to the world where there was just this pond and nothing else. And I found myself standing on this raft looking at all these other brightly colored orange fish that were looking up at me from the pond. And as I looked at these fish, I saw this big orange fish, like giant, jump out of the water and speak to me. And he said, you've fed me. Because of what you fed me, I'm this big now. And then I looked down at my hand and I had this like yellow translucent type seaweed kelp in my hand. And he said, will you share? Meaning, will you figure out how to feed all the other fish in this pond? Because look at how big I have become because you've been feeding me. And when I woke up the next morning, all the dreams that I've been having over these last few years really clicked into place. Hence the title of this episode, Breakthrough. My beautiful friends, I'm sharing my dreams with you today because I believe there's a powerful message for you in them. And that is this: when you give your attention to the deepest parts of yourself, even if you don't fully understand it, if you just give your attention to it and trust that your divine spirit and the divine friends who are going to help you along the way, both the divine friends in the real world, I shouldn't say the real world, in the world, the physical world that we're living in, because I believe the physical and the spiritual, it's all real. But this physical world that we live in, along with the spiritual realm that's right beside us, those guides are here to help you. People are here to help you. Bring your attention to that thing that's been calling you. Because in my dreams, the fish that were jumping out of the tank symbolized my divine spirit, my feminine intuition, my wisdom, my psychic gifts. They were never meant to be in a tank. So this has layers, right? Like this morning, finally, all of it clicked into place. They weren't meant to be in a tank. That's why I struggled to feed them. Because the breakthrough happened when the fish were being fed in the wild. I also realized that this recurring dream I have about being back in the school systems teaching when I know I'm not supposed to be there is not just about the school system. It's about many of the structures that we've been conditioned to believe in, right? Plugging ourselves into corporate structures that suck the life out of us, trying to feed and nourish our spirits through this quote unquote self-care that's really just a way of these corrupt organizations to gaslight us into thinking that we're working ourselves dry when really they're the ones sucking us dry. So it's like they drain us of all our resources and then put it on us to heal ourselves while they continue to just be vampires for all that we are. This dream was telling me that the school system wasn't just my experience with teaching. It's symbolic of our collective struggle of just being machines, giving our all to feed the machine. And I'm so stressed because I'm trying to break free from it. We cannot fully nourish who we are in fish tanks. Animals don't belong in cages. We don't belong in cages. We cannot fully nourish ourselves if we're looking to do it inside the structures that are killing our spirits in the first place. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean that you can't begin this journey while still in the fish tank. I mean, I did. And this is what I mean about the attention piece. I didn't know what these dreams meant when I was struggling to feed these fish. I know that it stressed me out. I didn't have a clear answer, but I gave it my attention. And here's how I gave it my attention. I told my husband about it. I talked about it. I journaled about it. Even though I didn't have the answer, I took the time to speak about it and I took the time to write it down. This is one of the first and most important steps for you. If there is something that's coming to you in a dream, or just even in your waking life, like maybe a certain symbol keeps popping up for you. I don't know, maybe you keep seeing an eagle flying in the air, or maybe it's something a little bit goofier, like maybe you keep seeing, orange triangles popping up on things, or a basketball bouncing, or just something. There's some sort of symbol, and you know what it is that keeps popping up for you in your dreams or your waking life. I invite you, my precious friends, to bring your attention to it. And you can do that by something as simple as talking about it with someone. Make sure it's someone that you trust, someone who deserves that knowledge. But talk about it with someone, write it down, show yourself and your spirit guides that it's worth your attention. Because I think we can agree our attention is a precious commodity. Look at all the things that are desperate for your attention. All the algorithms that want you to click and suck you in, all the ads that show you bright and shiny colors and people and things. Your attention is a precious commodity. Because what we bring our attention to is what we bring our energy to. And I am inviting you to take that back. Please hear me, my friends. Take your attention back. It is precious. It is not a resource that should be squandered, exploited, taken advantage of. Take it back. Pay attention to the higher thing that's been calling you. And a very simple and easy way to begin is just talk about it. Write it down and trust that your spirit is strong enough to lead you down the path that will give you the answers that you need. And along that path are gardens, are storms, are shelters that you don't fully understand, are mountains you need to climb, because this journey with the fish for me has been intense. I did not have the answers right away when it was jumping out of the tanks. I just knew something was being leaked, something was being neglected, something needed my attention. And in my waking life, naturally, by giving attention to this fish tank dream, I started to go on this journey of rediscovering my spiritual gifts, of rediscovering myself, of rediscovering my purpose, of what I came here to do, which is to restore feminine wisdom. And things in my waking life started to feed that, right? These books that I needed started coming to me, but I did my part by reading them. I started to hear new voices. And part of how I started to hear these voices of wisdom was I turned off gossip radio and instead tuned into podcasts where people like Jay Shetty were having deep conversations with some of the wisest people of our time. I discovered Chani because I turned off the radio and listened to Jay Shetty. I discovered Rick Rubin and the book that changed my life, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. You have to read it. I'm going to link it. I discovered that because I turned off the radio and turned on wisdom. And these things set us on a path. So this fish tank dream set me on this path of, even though I didn't fully understand what it meant, something in me was sparked. And my higher self and the guides who are helping me connected me with the things that would help me nurture the fish, which were my feminine wisdom. But the beauty of this is that it started with these fish jumping out of a tank. Okay. And I think that symbolizes me too, kind of messily jumping out of these soul-sucking structures, the workplace, it started with me jumping out of this tank, and maybe it was messy, desperately trying to find my nourishment, to me standing on shore calling something to me. Because when I was giving my attention to these books that were giving me their wisdom, but also triggered my own wisdom, when I began to write stories that I knew I was called to write, even if I didn't know why, I knew I was called to write them. When I began this journey, I began to nourish the fish, and I started seeing it in the wild. I called this lavender fish from the water. I called my divine wisdom back to me. I remembered it. My friends, I think if you start giving your attention to the thing that's calling you, you will begin to remember who you really are and where you really belong. And that might, just might, heal some of the loneliness and isolation that you feel now, because you'll remember where you belong. And you'll also remember that you have the power to create that place for yourself and for other people. And it's not dependent on you having all the answers right away. It's dependent on you remembering that you know the way, that you can take that first step and allow yourself and allow those who are wanting to help you to walk with you. The dream I had last night, this beautiful, big, giant, bright orange fish jumped out of the water. And it was a fish that was in this other world, that was in this sort of spiritual plane, but I had a connection to it in the physical world, right? I was feeding it in the physical world. And then in the spiritual world, it was this beautiful bright orange fish. Now, bright orange represents the sacral chakra. That's our area of creativity and life, kind of just below our navel. And the color orange has come to me a lot in dreams. And I know from my study that it is because it is the sacral chakra, creativity, the life-giving forces that we all hold is something I am meant to heal for myself and for others. And that is the other beauty of this journey. If you bring your attention to the thing that's been calling you, when you heal yourself, you learn how to heal a piece of the collective. I wrote about it in my story Daenerys, which I shared a couple weeks back. If you haven't read it, you got to read it. I'm going to link that too. In my story, Daenerys, Arya Stark is building this big structure of built with dragon glass, and she does it because she's so traumatized from killing the Night King that she has to do something with this pent up energy that she has from just getting him on her, when she stabbed him, but also just the trauma of having a being like that touch her. And even though she was victorious, she was still touched by this dark energy, and she needed to do something with it. And healing herself by just bringing her attention towards this weapon that she used, but also that brought her close to the enemy. Before she knew it, she built a structure that healed her and healed the masses. And it's a big clue for what we do with our own trauma. It's not just about healing from our trauma. It's about using the weapons that we needed for war to build a safe haven for our collective, to build a community that's not centered on war, that's centered on safety, because we know from all psychological studies that what human beings crave most, what human beings need to thrive, is safety. We have to feel safe to access these higher things. So what is your weapon? What is the weapon that you used to survive that you now can use to thrive? What is the tool that you use to heal yourself that you know you can use to heal the collective? It's in your hands already. What needs to click into place for you today? Because part of the reason why I'm recording this right now is because I know that there's someone out there who's ready for something to click into place. You're ready to take that next step on your own path to healing, to restoration, and you know that you have the tools to help other people. This is for you. And to all of you, don't allow the things that suck your energy to take your attention anymore. You can take the first step because there is something that's been calling to you. And I know that our education system, because I was in it, I taught in it, teaches us that we have to do A plus B equals C. We have to have the answer right away. And as a high performer, I can tell you I'm someone who gets frustrated when I don't have answers. I can relate. But as someone who also was willing to go on this journey of restoration, to go on this journey of reflection, of allowing pieces of myself to come back to me, that it's worth it. Because what bringing my attention to this fish tank dream did is it signaled to my heart, to my guides, to all of the compassionate, beautiful forces that are trying to help us in this world, that, hey, she's ready. She's ready to go. So bring your attention to the thing, whatever it is that's been calling to you. And you can do that simply right now by telling someone about it, being brave enough to be vulnerable and say, hey, I had this dream. Being brave enough to unplug from what's familiar, being brave enough to challenge your brain, to unplug from some of the dopamine hits that are begging for your attention, and instead write in your journal. Don't bring your phone to the bathroom next time. Leave your phone outside of the bathroom and let yourself think while you're on the toilet. I'm actually being serious, because the other thing is I've kind of become an expert at knowing how to work these spiritual insights into a very busy life. Because guess what, my friends? I did not start this journey on my own with no kids and no responsibilities. All of these insights came to me in the midst of having a lot of kids and a busy life and taking risks and having stressors. You don't have to wait until your life is quote unquote perfect. That's a lie. This myth of perfection is just a lie. You don't have to reach a certain point before you can begin a spiritual journey or before you can begin living your best life. You can do it right now. I've done it. I'm telling you this from experience. I'm still doing it. You just got to do it. You just have to be brave enough to unplug from the thing that's been sucking your attention. And you know what I mean. And if you don't know what I mean, okay. If you are putting your energy into something that has your attention but doesn't deserve it, generally you feel kind of gross after you talk about it or after you're spending time in it. You feel almost, okay, here's a good example. You feel like you've just eaten too much. You feel bloated. You feel just kind of like that's how you know that something that has your attention is draining it, okay? And maybe that thing is scrolling. You get sucked into TikTok or you get sucked into Instagram, but afterwards you just feel full. You feel kind of like, ugh, like I need a nap right now, but my blood is so full of sugar. My mind is so full of all these dopamine hits. I don't even think I could rest if I wanted to. Maybe that thing is gossip. I can relate. It's so easy to talk about people, right? I mean, let's be honest, they give us a lot of material, okay? But maybe after you spend time gossiping with your partner or someone else, you're like, oh, like you feel like you've eaten too much. Or maybe you have a really shitty boss, as many of us do, and you just spent an hour talking about how shitty they are. And afterwards, you're like, ugh. That's a sign that something's draining your energy. Now, we all need a place to discuss our frustrations. I'm not suggesting that you eliminate that entirely. I'm suggesting that maybe you give it a little bit less of your energy. Whatever that thing is that makes you feel bloated, that makes you feel gross, siphon off a little of that time and put it back into your higher calling. Because you know what it is. Trust that you know what it is. And it's been trying to speak to you. I'm sharing my dreams with you because you can do the same thing. There's something calling you, and you don't have to have all the answers to answer. You just have to give it some of your attention. And as you do that, the path becomes clear. As you do that, you're building something. Because the more that you speak about the thing that's giving you life, the more you invite in that spiritual magic. The more you're signaling to the universe, to your spirit guides, to your higher self, hey, I'm ready. I'm going to give this my attention. What do you have to show me? Because again, as I started speaking about this fish tank dream, answers started coming. I didn't know it at the time, but I was put on this path where I started studying higher wisdom. And in studying that higher wisdom, I was able to make sense of my own. I was able to call my own back to me. And before I knew it, I had nourished this giant magical being that's ready to be shared with the world, that's ready to help others. And that's what happens when you nourish yourself, you nourish others. And it happens naturally. I'm so grateful that you joined me today. You know that there's someone that needs to hear this episode, so please listen to it again. Share it if you can. And in the meantime, though, I am so grateful for you for coming.